Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this video we're going to be continuing with the RPG Systems tutorial series. Following on from last video where we started coding some of the UI that we designed in the previous episode, we now want to hook up the rest of it. So we've still got like the slider for how much you want to buy and sell, we want to add the possibility to press the buy and sell button to switch between whose inventories we see, and so on and so forth. So this video is going to be getting that all working, and then in future videos we can obviously refactor it and make it better and smarter. And then the next video will be where we finish off the actual vendor system and make it so you can buy and sell items properly. But of course, first I've got to thank my patrons, with special thanks to Flow State Games, Average Morning, Art Farrell, Buddha Ray, Remy Baldwin, and Phil Baum. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, the link will be down below. There's also links down below to social media such as Twitch, Twitter, and my Discord server, so if you want to help me out that way, that'd be greatly appreciated too. But apart from that, let's get to the video. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, what we can do now is we can walk up to an NPC, interact, we can see that they are a trader, a vendor, a merchant, whatever you want to call it. You click on their button and then you get taken to this window. Obviously we need to kind of improve the whole, going between windows thing, because currently we have to use like Unity events to toggle all the different windows, and it would be just nicer if there's a better way to do that, but that's nothing we're going to worry about right now. We want to make these buy and sell tabs do something. We want this data here to be filled in when we select an item, put some default text there so that, we don't, because if we just leave this blank when no items are selected, then it looks pretty bad. Or equally, we could just get it to instantly select the first item in the list. I think that makes the most sense. And then we want this slider to tweak this 10 to 50 to be, whatever out of whatever for that item. And then confirm we're probably going to sort out next video. For now, we can do it, just give the player the item, but we also need to check their money and so on. And then obviously on sell tab, we do the opposite. We select how much we want to sell, confirm, we get the money. So let's get into that now. Okay, so here I am in the inventory class. The first thing we need to fix is, last video, I got it to display all items. So if we have 3 slots of health potions, there's 3 different slots as such in the UI. But rather than saying, we have 3 slots of 9 health potions, that's not actually true. We have 1 of 9, or 3 of 3. So we currently have a get all items function. I think we should write a function for like get all unique items. So let's just copy and paste that and then call it, get all unique items. So this is essentially going to return like every slot where there are items. To be honest, this is a pretty useless function. I don't see a use in that, so I'm actually going to get rid of that function. Maybe we can re-implement it later if we need to. And let's go to the item container interface and just change this to be called get all unique items. Okay, so it's just going to be a list of inventory items, and we're going to write the logic here. So let's just delete this. So essentially we want to go through every slot, make sure there's something there, and if there is, we add it to the list. But if it's already in the list, we just don't add it to the list. That's pretty simple. So we want to say, sorry. So for all in the, for all, okay, so to get all unique items, we want to loop through the inventory essentially, get all the slots, and then whenever we find an item, we add it to the list, but only if it's not already in the list. So we're going to say for I is less than item slots, item slots dot length. We're going to say if, I'm going to zoom in, sorry, a bit for you guys. If item slots I dot item is not null, or well, if it is null, we're just going to continue. So if it's null, continue, like so. And then we say if items dot contains item slots I dot item. So if we already have the item, also continue. But otherwise, items dot add item slots I dot item. Sorry. Okay, and then we return that. So that will get us all unique items. That's happy because we implement the interface, and we should have one error, which I'm going to just find through the inspector because it's faster, is that we call get all items when all unique items. So if we just get all unique items and make a button for all of those, then theoretically we should be fine. If we go press play now, there should be one button saying we've got 9 health potions, even though he has 3 slots of 3. There we go, health potion and 9. Okay, cool, that works. Let's move on to the next bit. So if we go back to the code here, we have a start scenario function which we call through an event. Now, problem is, we just say spawn in some items, and this function's done, right? But ideally, we want some other stuff to happen. We want to cache, or save, store in this class the vendor data so that we can access at a later date, and by date I mean just at a later time, who we're buying and selling from, right? We need to cache this data. So let's have a private vendor data. Just call it, Now, yeah, so I've got vendor data, scenario data, which I'm not a big fan of that, but we'll deal with it for now. I can rename later. Scenario data equals null. And then we're just going to say here, this dot scenario data is equal to scenario data. So we cache it here. And then once we've done that, if we need to access it in a function down here, we can access the scenario data. So we'll write a public void for the buy in the sell tab, right? So we'll just say like buy tab button, right? Or we could even just say select buy tab or something, but I'll just call it buy tab button. And then we'll have a sell tab button. Okay, those are the two functions. If we go back into here, we want to go to the vendor UI and go down. So we got the button buy and the button sell. So the button buy on click should ask the vendor UI system buy tab button, right? This is the buy tab button. And then for the sell, we want to say vendor system sell tab button. Okay, cool. Apply all that. So now we have to write the logic. So when we press the buy tab button, we want to essentially do this, right? We want to get all the items for the person who's... Okay, well, I say selling, but the selling item container is always the vendor, right? The other person. So I'm going to put that inside here, okay? And then, so here we can just say buy tab button, as if like by default, whenever we speak to a vendor, we go into the buy section. And then down here, we want to do the same. I know there's a little bit more we have to do, but we want to say dot buying item container. So when we're selling, we want to see all of our buttons, right? We want to see all of our stuff here. So get all unique items from ourselves, and then spawn a button in for them all. And then also we want to make a private function down here, maybe private void clear items. Now in the future we might make an item pooling system or a button pooling system, which means that we don't have to create and destroy buttons every single time we need them. We can just reuse the old ones and deactivate them. But for now, I mean, I don't want to waste time doing that. I want to just keep this quite easy, quite quick and concise. So to clear item buttons, all we're going to do is simply loop. We're just going to say for each transform child in the holder transform, destroy child.gameObject, like so. And then whenever we do this, we want to say, well, make sure we've cleared all the old ones, make sure we've cleared all the old ones. Okay, simple. So now what should happen is, if we go and speak to a vendor, we say, we're on buy by default, we see their items, we press sell, we see our own. We don't have anything in our inventory, so we have nothing to sell. If we go over here and press E, we've got some items now in our inventory. We have, 3 health potions, so they should have 9 and we should have 3. But it says 9 because, if you look here, this says selling still, and you see here this is the sell tab button. So when we sell, we're getting the buying, which is us, and then when we buy, we're doing the selling. It's kind of flipped around. But yeah, that'll sort it now. Yeah, I think the only thing I really need to improve on this system is the naming, because the naming's very annoying right now. So if I go get those items and then go over to the NPC and let's trade. Now you see I have 3 health potions, they have 9. If we had more items, they'd appear here and so on. Okay, so that's fine. Now we need to make these buttons do something, and then we want to display the info on here. So when we click on an item, we want to display its info. So I think that's the first thing to do. Let's make those buttons. So if we go back to our scripts, we have a vendor item button class. Now currently it doesn't do anything, so we're going to go put a button component on it in a second. But let's make a public void select item. So when we select this item, we want to essentially tell the vendor system, hey, this item was selected, and then obviously from there you need to display some info for it. So have we got a vendor? We've just got for the UI. Yeah, it's just all here. So let's do header for the, what should we call this? We'll just call it like data display or something. We want reference to a text mesh pro UGUI, and we'll call it item data text. I mean, what did we call it in the actual scene, right? We've got the item name text, item description text, right? So we'll call it item name text, and we want to import TM Pro, copy and paste that, item description text, and then we have, is that it? Pretty much. Let me go and just toggle this UI on because I want to quickly see again what it's like. Okay, so we actually also want a third field, item data text. So we've got item name data, or name description data. That'll fill in the name description data there. Then this quantity stuff we'll do next. So to set all this data, we want to obviously select an item. All this really cares about, all the vendor system cares about, is storing the current item. It needs to store the current item and then also what state we're in, because if we're in buying and selling, it's a bit different, right? So let's make a public function down here. Set target, or like set item. So to set an item, we just want to say which item it is, right? So let's go back to the vendor item button. We currently just store an item in here. Now, technically, we should be storing an inventory item because we're not going to be having just a normal base item in here. We want more data than that because an inventory item is something that can have quantity. If anything, we actually want to store a reference to a slot in the inventory so that we can reference the quantity of it, because we're going to need to know the quantity of it, right? Luckily, the way we've actually got it working now, because we know who it belongs to, we can ask that person's item container for the quantity. So it's actually not necessary to do that. We can just say, make sure this initializes an inventory item, like so. And just make sure everything's happy still when I go back into the editor. Everyone's still happy, hopefully. Cool. Let's go to the vendor UI and drag in that data. So the name text is here, description text is here, data text is here. I'm going to disable the canvas now that I remember what it looks like. Apply everything to the UI, and let's get to the coding. Okay, so now I think it's a good time just to think about exactly what we need to do now. So currently our vendor item button's very detached in the sense that it just basically gets initialized and then that's it. What if we, for example, buy something from the NPC? We want to obviously reflect that by updating the UI to say how many you've got left of an item, and if we run out of an item, we want to get rid of the button and so on. So we're going to need to make the button actually know what's going on, either by listening or being told. Now, obviously, usually listening is a better idea, so we're probably going to go that approach. We're going to listen in for when a thing's updated, and then it will, change itself accordingly, whether it needs to destroy itself or whether it needs to do this or that. And we also need the vendor system to know whether we're in buy or sell mode, to know whether to, buy or sell. And then when we select an item in here, we need to tell the vendor system. So in reality, we need to cache in this button reference to the parent system. Now, luckily, we spawn this button in from the system, so we can do essentially we can pass the dependency down through the parent that spawned it in. So we're going to want to say in here, maybe, for now at least, vendor system, right? I know this is getting quite long here, which is a bit annoying, but if we have reference to a private vendor system, like so, and then we set it, so we can just say this dot vendor system is equal to the vendor system. Now the button knows, who spawned him in, and then we can just say when we select an item, vendor system dot select or dot set item. Then obviously from here we're going to need to know when we tap it which item it is. So in reality we also need to privately store which item we're responsible for. So private private inventory item this dot item is equal to item. So down here we set the item, and up here we know when we set an item we want to say the and also in here now this comma, so we can pass for ourselves. When we set an item we want to say the item name text.text is equal to, now set item is meant to take in an inventory item. Let's bring in that. It's equal to the item dot name. You could use a colored name if you want, it's up to you. Then item description text.text is equal to item dot do we not have a description? Oh, did I not bother putting that on items? So let's go look back at the item class. No, apparently I didn't bother with description. So in reality, we don't really need that text. But I might go add it. We'll add it in. It'll be easy. Item data text.text is equal to item dot get the info display text. So let's say item dot description, which currently doesn't exist, right? Description. So if we go back to the base item class, we can just add another string here. We can just say, we don't need new. We're going to call it description, new item description. And down here, public string description returns description. So now items can have their description accessed, and we can display it on the UI. And by default, when we start and we say by tab button, we then want to say set item. Well, we would need to know which item to set. So we say set item, the selling item, selling, why is that not working? Oh, scenario data dot selling item container dot get slot by index 0 dot item. So basically we're just going to get the first item in their thing. What? Oh, I forgot to do it in both places. Yeah, this is definitely going to need a refactor, but obviously our job right now is just to get it all working. If we press play, then we should be able to go in, let's trade, and then see here, you see all the data about it. Now, I've obviously not set the description, so it just says new item description like that. But you see down here, we also get common, does something maybe. It tells you about everything to do with it, right? That's what we want, essentially. Now, when I press sell, it doesn't select the first item there because there isn't one yet. So obviously, when we change tabs, we need to check if they have an item, and then if they don't, we're going to say set item. If item is null, we just want to say do all this, then return. So the text is equal to string.empty for all of them, really. And when we where's the system gone? I've closed it. Oops. Whenever we change tabs, we want to say, so in this case it's set item that. So in this case we don't have to do it up here. We can just do it once down here. Like so. And then down here, whoops, so down in the cell, we say the same, but for the buying item container. Well, obviously, if they don't actually, I'd say, do we want to take in an item here? Because the problem is that can be null. We'll probably get a null error in a second. Let's just try it anyway. It's fine for when the enemy does it, probably, but when I press sell, oh no, it actually doesn't seem to have a problem with that. It does just set it to null, as you see here, which is cool. Obviously, if I need to put a button on there actually to make that even work. So let's go to the vendor button. And I've called it a button, but currently we don't actually have a button component, so let's go drop that on there and say on click the button dot select item. So now we're able to do that. What else do we want to do? Let's just quickly test this out. So we can go to our items and make a new item. We're just going to keep it as a consumable, call it like speed potion. You know, speed potion. Gotta go fast. Health potion. I don't know. Healy boy. We're gonna make the other one. We're gonna just like mix them up a little bit. You know, a different rarity. This one can be uncommon. The max stat could be 3 for those, and so on. But they could cost 5 instead. We'll just set some different data, and we can tell the vendor over here that he actually instead of having 3 health potions, he has in this slot 2 speed potions. Okay, so now he should have 6 health potions, 2 speed potions, if I did that correctly. Yep, so now we have 2 speeds, and you see we get different data in there. We can obviously see the different ones. When we press sell, we go back to my inventory, and when we press buy, we see theirs. So if I did go pick up some items, we're going to say let's trade, and we can see my item. And when I go to my inventory, if I have an item, it just selects that first one by default on here, and then buy, you know, doesn't. So that's all good. We could even hide this entire bit of the UI if no items are selected, because I feel like it's a bit silly having all this down here too, like if it doesn't need to be. So that's it for this video. Obviously we can now select different items for the different person and then display them there. So the next video is where we finish this off now. In the next video we're going to just do the slider and then press confirm and do the buying and selling. So I hope you guys stick around for that video. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to drop a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. Join our Discord server if you need any more help and advice. If you want access to this code and project, the link is down below to my GitHub page where you can download this and mess around with it and do what you want. But yeah, the next video will be on Wednesday, I think. So I'll see you then.